It was the kind of evening when the city lights had begun to blink on, one by one across the skyline, the sun's last colors fading on the horizon. Nina pressed her suit jacket to her chest and stepped into the lobby of a high-rise office tower, her bag slung over her shoulder. She glanced at her watch, 7:45 p.m. She was late, again. But she had a good excuse. The metro line had stalled, and she'd had to take a taxi across town. Still, she hated being late. The lobby was quiet. Only one security guard remained at the desk, reading a newspaper under the dim glow of a desk lamp. He nodded silently as Nina slipped her badge through the scanner and took the elevator. As the doors slid shut, she exhaled and allowed herself a small moment of relief. She wasn't going all the way to the top. She just needed the 10th floor, where her office lay. Pressing 10, she watched the elevator display flick upward. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then it paused unexpectedly. The doors didn't open. Instead, the indicator settled at 6 and remained there. Nina frowned. She pressed the open door button. Nothing happened. She pressed alarm. A small red light flickered. She pressed 10 again. The car shuddered slightly. Then the lights dimmed. "Hello," she called. Her voice sounded oddly hollow in the confined space. No answer. The elevator felt colder. She pressed the emergency phone button. A dial tone, then silence. She tried again. Nothing. Her heart pounded. A flicker of movement caught her eye. Across the stainless steel wall, a mirror glinted. She saw her face, pale lips parted. She shook her head. "Don't panic," she told herself. The elevator must be stuck between floors. Someone would come to check soon. She tapped on the doors. Only cold steel, no give. She exhaled. She took out her phone. No signal. No bars. No Wi-Fi. Locked in. Minutes passed. She tried to steady her breathing. She closed her eyes and leaned back against the side. She recalled commuting stories of people stuck, but they were always brief interruptions. This felt heavier. Suddenly, a soft click. The elevator lights flickered. The car lurched downward, a fraction of a floor. The indicator shifted. 5, then 4. She gasped. The car stopped. The lights died, plunging her in darkness. She pressed the emergency light button. A faint yellow glow emerged overhead. Then something, a whisper. Nina froze. It came again. Help, a soft, forlorn sigh, seeming to drift into her ear. She froze. Her pulse throbbed in her temples. She scanned with her eyes. Nothing but shadows. Maybe sound reflection. Maybe her mind playing tricks. She steadied herself. "Hello? Who's there?" she whispered. No reply. The elevator remained still, silent, only the hum of her own breathing. She sat down on the floor, leaning against the rear wall. She wrapped her arms around her knees and tried to focus. Time blurred. Minutes, or perhaps more, passed. She dozed briefly. When she awoke, the indicator still read 4. She checked her watch. It had frozen. The hand stuck. The emergency light flickered. A cold draft brushed her. She shivered. Then the overhead panel behind the mirror cracked. A faint line, like a spider web in glass. She rubbed her eyes. Was the panel always cracked? She hadn't noticed. She rose cautiously. The crack widened slowly, spreading across the mirror's reflective surface. She gasped. The mirror glowed. The crack opened further, revealing a narrow, dark corridor beyond. A hallway she had never seen before. An image flickered. A hallway, dimly lit by lanterns, doors lining each side. The corridor seemed to slope downward, the far end vanishing into darkness. She blinked. The mirror's cracked opening pulsed, as if breathing. The hallway's floorboards creaked, and a faint shape moved at the far end, a silhouette. She stared, dread settling. Her rational mind balked. That must be impossible. Elevators don't lead to secret corridors. But there it was. The silhouette advanced slowly, one step at a time, toward the mirror. She stumbled backward, heart racing. The light dimmed. The silhouette grew sharper. A tall figure, featureless, clothes draped in shrouds of darkness. Nina forced herself to calm. She approached the mirror slowly, her reflection fading. She placed a trembling hand near the crack. The surface rippled like water. Her other hand gripped the handrail at the elevator wall. She felt two impulses, fear and curiosity. The silhouette moved. The crack widened further, now dominant over most of the mirror. Breath held. Nina exhaled and stepped forward. She entered the mirror's surface, or rather, she was drawn in. The elevator car vanished. She found herself standing in that corridor she had glimpsed. The hallway was narrow, walls paneled in dark oak. Faint sconces glowed on the walls, casting long shadows. Doors on either side, heavy, carved. The air was still, with a hush of distant wind. She swallowed. A door at the far end stood slightly ajar. Moonlight slanted through and traced shapes on the carpeted floor. She walked forward, each footstep soundless. The silence weighed heavy. As she neared the open door, she heard music, a single piano note echoing softly. She pushed the door fully open. Inside was a grand room, like an old hotel lounge. Velvet chairs, a grand piano by a window, and on the wall, a massive portrait of a woman, pale, striking, with eyes that seemed to follow Nina. The air carried a fragrance, old perfume, dust, something bittersweet. Nina moved toward the piano. The keys pressed themselves, striking a chord that made her heart crack. She stared at the portrait. The woman's eyes flicked. Then the mouth moved, lips parted, forming a word. Come. Nina froze. The piano ceased. The door behind closed with a click. The portrait's eyes gleamed. A pale hand extended from the frame. She recoiled. The hand beckoned again. She realized she had intruded into a realm not meant for her. The atmosphere thickened. The lights dimmed. Shadows danced. The floorboards moaned. The portrait woman stepped out, form solidifying, dress flowing. She was tall, elegant, with sad eyes. Her voice whispered in Nina's mind. You came. Nina trembled. Who are you? She managed. The woman sighed. I was trapped here, between the world of the living and the shadow. I have sought passage. You came. Passage? To where? Nina asked. To return. To leave. Nina shook her head. But I want to go back, to my world. The woman's face softened. Then help me. Let me trade places. Free me, and I will free you. Fear warred with empathy. She studied the room. Dusty books, a mirror above the piano reflecting only darkness. The door was locked. The only exit seemed through a narrow staircase behind a hidden panel. The portrait woman gestured. Nina stepped into the corridor and found the panel. It swung open, revealing steep stairs spiraling down into gloom. The woman followed. They descended. The stairs felt endless. Cold walls, damp air. At the bottom, they reached a cavernous chamber. In the center, a stone altar with an obsidian mirror. The mirror's surface writhed like smoke. The portrait woman whispered, "This is the boundary mirror, the portal between realms." Nina looked at it warily. The lady placed her hand on the mirror. It shimmered, then a pull. The woman turned to Nina. Step aside. Nina hesitated. You said trade places. The lady nodded. I will leave, you will return. With trembling hands, Nina stepped back. The lady faced the mirror. A vortex opened. Light and shadow warred. The lady reached in. Her form stretched, dissolved into strands of light. The vortex flared, then closed. Silence. Nina gasped, heart pounding. The chamber felt empty. She reached her arms out. She walked upward through the stairs, through corridors, following the path she came. She emerged again in the elevator. But this time, the doors opened onto the 10th floor. The indicator read 10. The doors slid open. She stepped out into the hallway of familiar offices, bright overhead lights humming. No one in the corridor. She walked to her own office, unlocked the door, turned on the light. The space looked ordinary, as if nothing had happened. She found her phone and messages, unanswered calls from her friend, her mother. She tried her watch. Its hands resumed normal movement. She exhaled. She sank into her chair. Then she stood, walking to the office window, looking down at the city lights. She pressed her hand to the glass. Her pulse still pounded. She closed her eyes, uncertain if she had dreamed or traveled somewhere else. On her desk, she noticed a single object she didn't own before, a small antique key, dark iron, with a swirl at its head, inscribed faintly with an ornate M. She picked it up, turning it over in her palm. Her heart skipped. Had she really traded places? Was the lady freed? Or was she still out there, somewhere beyond the boundary mirror? Nina's breath caught. She sat back. She opened a drawer. Inside lay a photograph, her in the elevator, dressed as tonight. And in the same frame, behind her, the woman from the portrait, faintly visible. Nina's eyes widened. She dropped the photo. Behind her, a soft click. The office door closed on its own. She froze. A whisper low, "Thank you." She spun, empty office. The lights flickered. The key in her hand glowed faintly for a heartbeat, then dimmed. The silence returned. Nina didn't know what would come next. She didn't know if she was safe. But something had changed. She touched the key again. She steeled herself. The journey might not be over. But one thing was certain. The elevator's doors had opened, and the boundary between worlds had been crossed.